Well, I don't doubt you're going as fast as you can if you've got an Austin Cambridge. Welcome to Lot 76 Cars. My name is Simon. Today I'm at the fabulous Stoke Row Steam Rally and I'm going to show you a great collection of classic cars like this Rolls-Royce behind me. So we're going to start off with a commercial, and this one's Thames. Now Ford ran with the Thames brand in the pre-transit days, and this Thames, in actual fact, I think 400e, actually predated and was replaced by the Transit. Transit, obviously, a far more well-known and household name today, but this was Ford's attempt to catch up BMC and others in the light commercial vehicle stakes. Unbelievably, Alec Isigonis' masterpiece was already turning 30 back in 1989, and to commemorate this, Austin Rover, I think it was then, maybe Rover Group, actually produced these special 30th edition cars in either black or, in this case, in a metallic burgundy, and this one looks a treat, even if it is being driven by a Badger. Lovely. So launched at the 1989 Tokyo Motor Show, and an immediate hit based on a micro, I think a K10 platform, is this Nissan Figaro. Now the Figaro was an immediate hit, and I think they took huge numbers of advanced orders, produced these at the same plant, the Pike plant, that produced the BE0 and the S-Cargo, the van version on the same platform. Never officially imported into the UK. Unfortunately, they do suffer a little bit with rust, so they don't survive as well as this little beauty has. But you do see them now and again, and don't they look lovely? Beautiful. So this is a 1964 Austin Westminster 110, and it's got apparently quite a lazy 6-cylinder engine. It's a manual, but apparently it doesn't need that many gear changes. It rolls along rather well. These was towards the top of the BMC range back in 1964, weren't they? Got the trademark fins and obviously the Farina styling at the back end. What an elegant looking car. Works in that two-tone colour, doesn't it? So this is ADO 16, the Austin stroke Morris 1100. This is the Austin version. In actual fact, this was the best-selling car in 1965, and that's the first year that the Society of Motor Manufacturing Traders captured official registration data. This best-selling car on its own sold 147,000 units, taking an unprecedented 14.5% of the UK market. That's something that nobody could achieve today with a single model, but it displaced the Cortina and a number of other marques to actually take the top spot. And if you wanted family transport back in the 60s, then this is what you probably bought. So this is lovely, isn't it? I believe built at Luton is the HB Viva, the much squarer version. Don't see so many of these that survive. This is the SL, so I guess we're getting towards the top end of the range. It's a two-doors, you can see. Lovely colour in that turquoise, and beautiful condition, isn't it? That's lovely. Glorious. Launched in 1968, and one of the last cars I think William Lyons was involved directly in the design is the XJ. Now XJ standing for Experimental Jaguar. This is a Series 1 car, what's 72, so a few years after launch. It's got the low bumpers on, replaced by the higher bumpers for the American market with the Mark II. And this one's lovely colour, isn't it? Beautiful colour. Some great solid colours back in the day. It's still got the twin tanks at the back, and it's the it's tagged as a 3.9 litre, so not quite sure what's going on with that one, but it does look lovely, doesn't it? So Ford's staple family sedan back in the day was the Anglia, and this is probably what I think the second generation Anglia after the sort of so-called sit-up and beg version. This one's lovely, isn't it? I would imagine it may well be, would it be a column gear? No, it's a floor gear change in actual fact. Yeah, that was family transport from Ford back in the day. So for Wallace and Gromit fans, we've got the Austin, I think this is the A30 with the smaller back window. These are just the cutest looking little cars, aren't they? What an absolute beauty. I think the first cars came just with something like an 803cc engine or something like that one, but that is lovely, isn't it? I would love to have a go in one of those. If somebody's got one and wants to let me have it on the channel for review, I'd love to try it. So after the first fruits of the relationship with Honda, which was the Triumph Acclaim, which was very similar to the donor car, I think the Ballade, they came up with this, and this was a stunning design by a guy called Richard Woolley, and underneath it's the quite forgettable Honda Accord of the period. But what Richard did is he managed to use the underpinnings of the Accord and actually come up with a very attractive design. I do like the 600s, you probably gather if you've been watching the channel for a while. This one's full leather, automatic. Is it what, 620? So 620, all I think with the Honda engines. They're beautiful. Well, to me anyway, I think they're outstanding designs. So a bit lower down the Capri range is this 1.6 GL. So effectively it's a Mark III, but is it really a Mark II facelift? There's some debate on that one. Instantly recognisable. The GL doesn't even have the head restraints. You probably have to go up to a gear to get those, or an S I suspect, but nevertheless a lot of car back in the day, and a lot of bonnet as well if you've ever driven one. A huge bonnet in front of you. Launched in 1967 is this Mark II Cortina 1600E. Basically it is a Cortina GT underneath, but it's got the Lotus suspension, it's got things like reclining seats, lowered suspension, sculptured wheels, polished wood, and leather covered steering wheel I think as well. So wow, we've really landed on our feet with this one, and isn't it lovely? Beautiful. So from the Colossus, it was the Roots Group, is this 1956 Hillman Minx. This particular car's for sale. So this was motoring back in the 50s. You've got a bench seat, you've got a column mounted gear change. I'm not sure what you've got in terms of top speed, but I'm not sure. I'd like to find out. Don't see too many of these about actually. They don't seem to survive as well as the later Minxes anyway. Well, if you ask for a Cadillac, we've got just the one for you. It's sat on the floor, it's got side exhaust pipes, and it's got a lovely furry dash top. So yes, we've got an MG Midget. It's the round wheel arch version. The Midget was also marketed as an Austin Healey as well. These went on to donate their doors to the Panther Callista, if you recognise those, and probably quite a few kit cars as well. That's lovely, isn't it? So we've got a Ford Granada Mark II, and it's the facelifted car. As you can see, it's got the redesigned front and rear bumpers and that body colour grille. Gear was absolutely top of the tree in the company car park. That lovely velour interior. This is the one that you wanted to have. Somebody's put a rear spoiler on this one as well, and doesn't it look epic? So we've got a Rover P4 in 75 model designation. Now these have the things like the suicide rear doors, and I think the back end styling was inspired by an American car, by I think a Studebaker. When you look at the cars, I'll correct that if I'm wrong, but when you look at the cars side by side, you do see the styling similarities of that car from back in the day. So it's hard to believe that from the year 2000 this Fiesta diesel van is already something like 24 years old. This particular one's for sale. It's a 1.8 diesel with 74,000 miles on and one owner from new. A lot of these were used by BT back in the day, bought these by the thousands, but you just don't see so many of them. Not that survive as well as this one. Hang on, who called the Rosses? Well, we've got a recreation, I think it's a recreation, of a Morris Minor 1000 police car. Now I'm not sure what you catch or who you catch in a Morris Minor 1000 Panda car, but there you go. So from the days of the Vickers ownership of Rolls-Royce is this Spirit, and this was the car back in the day. It's got the flying lady that will disappear into the bonnet if you get too close and touch it. It's in beautiful condition. It does take quite a bit of money to keep these cars on the road. You've got people like Flying Spares and others who try to support them, but great to see that here. Don't ask about the miles per gallon though. So from a time when Ford ruled the company car fleet is the Ford Cortina Mk5. These have got a better survival rate than the Mark IVs. Apparently rust proofing was better. This is the gear, so we've got a couple of extra lamps at the front. They were accessories. We've got the wheels that the gear had, and we've got those unique 3 stripes that run along the bottom half of the car, which denotes that it's a gear. These are lovely. I did learn to drive or have some lessons in my granddad's 1.6L, but I would have been absolutely delighted to try a 2 litre like this one. Now BMC, or British Motor Corporation, were the absolute masters of badge engineering, and this is the Austin Cambridge, the Austin version of the Farina saloons. It's got those trademark fins, which is to be seen to be believed, which were all the rage back in the day. And it does look pretty nice in that colour. It does say that it's going as fast as it can, and I believe it. Now Pininfarina got an awful lot of work out of BMC and other manufacturers back in the day, and this in fact was called the A40 Farina. Now I think that this one doesn't have the opening rear window, but the ones that did, I think they were called the Countryman, that had the opening rear window. I guess in terms of sort of semi hatchback styling, incredibly useful. But these, you just don't see so many of these at shows, I must admit. Now hands up, I've had to cheat here. I've had to read the card that comes with the car. It's a 1955 Buick Roadmaster 4-door sedan that goes on and on and on and on. What a car. It's still, even by 2024 standards, it's still an epically huge car, isn't it? That's a hell of a colour scheme. So another example of an ADO 16, but this one is a Vanden Plas version from 1968. You know, they did really maximise their market opportunity with this. It was bought as a fully working vehicle, and it had a restoration during the COVID period, and they did a great job with it. Beautiful, isn't it? Staple of the company car list back in the 80s and into the 90s is the Sierra. Now this one, like, it's a proper rep car. It's an estate, although it's an automatic, so somebody got the extra allowance to get an auto. And you know, commonplace at one time, absolute street furniture here in the UK, and now you just don't see them. I rarely see them at all, never mind as an estate version. They just didn't survive. So an unbelievable 60 years ago, Rover scooped the award for Car of the Year. In fact, the first European Car of the Year award ever, and they scooped it with the Rover P6. This is an early car. In fact, it might even be from the same year. It might even be from 64, looking at the reg number. It's in beautiful order. It's a 2000, the original one, pre them putting the small block 3.5 litre Buick engine. It's a manual as well. Got a lot of the original features there. Looks absolutely glorious, doesn't it? I do like that. Manufactured and sold from the 60s right the way through to the mid 80s is the minivan. This is the 850cc, I think it's 848cc version from November 1971, and originally supplied to Yorkshire Water Authority in Halifax. So it's survived rather well. It's got that vent in the roof that the vans had, which is handy if you're carrying dogs or things in the back of it. So there's the vent in the roof. It's in beautiful, beautiful nick, isn't it? Lovely condition, that one. Now I know quite a bit about this 1990 Mercedes 190e in a relatively rare colour, Ascot Grey, a solid colour that nobody ticked the box back in the day, because this is my car. So dusted off the car, washed it and given it a bit of a polish, ready for this local show today, and it's come up rather well. And I do enjoy owning that car, I must admit. So a shout out to the Zephyr and Zodiac club that support this event, the Mark IV club to be precise, and they've got this, first of all they've got this one-off camper that you may have seen on the channel before, a one-off camper designed by Ginetta. Only ever made one, never went on to repeat it, unusual to base it on a saloon car. So the Zephyr of this era was replaced in 1972 by the Granada, but these are absolutely, even by today's standard, they're huge cars, aren't they? Absolutely epic. Well known, a few of these Mets in glorious ends in chases on the Sweeney. By that stage into the 70s they were just old cars, but glad that a few of them survived that. So this Daimler Conquest Century Saloon in 1955 was actually built while Daimler was still an independent company, or independent of Jaguar, and they were owned by BSA, Birmingham Small Arms, the company that also produced motorcycles as well. And they did produce a range of these cars. They did experiment later with sports cars, which was the SP250, which unfortunately brought the company to its knees, but this was their staple back in the day, large luxurious saloon cars. So supposedly restyled by Ital, and that's how it picked up the name Morris Ital. It was basically a reskinned or modified Marina. In fact, allegedly a lot of the work was done by Harris Mann rather than Ital, so a bit of poetic license there. But this is the only known registered 1982 estate version of this car on the road. It's a bit of a unicorn, isn't it? Lovely to see that car. So with a very limited budget, British Leyland took the Allegro and they changed the bonnet, and they actually handed the car over to Vanden Plas at their North London works, and they took the cars offline and they sent them down from Longbridge to be refinished and retrimmed, and they did a great job with this, to be fair. The interior is brilliant, despite the changes being minimal on the outside. It's got the picnic tables on the back, it's got that lovely leather interior, it's got the grille at the front, which was the only external change. Now, because of additional quality checks at Vanden Plas North London plant, in actual fact the quality was actually better than the base car, apparently. So this car's been in its current ownership for some years. It's a Triumph 2000. The wheels you might not recognise. Apparently the blurb says it's from an MGA. These, I'm pretty sure these were Michelotti designed originally. I might have got that wrong, but I know they were facelifted later in life. But these were quite a sports car with the larger engine back in the day. Absolutely lovely, with some period mods, it seems. So another show and another Volvo P1800. This is an S, it's a 66. It is a Swedish produced car. The owner's going to let me have a quick look inside. They're quite a lovely cabin, these. We'll just open that. Quite a low seating position, handbrake there next to the driver. Lovely, sort of like a shelf. The radio's a bit of a stretch away. You've got a grab handle in there. That's lovely, isn't it? And at a stretch, I guess you could get a couple of kids in the back. That's beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely lovely. We've got a Moggy Minor Traveller. Now these are unusual compared to the Mini Minor Travellers because the wood at the back is actually structural. So if the wood is rotten, that's pretty crucial. It's an integral part of the car's actual build, and that looks like that's the split in the roof between the front Minor and the rear roof. That's in great condition, that one, isn't it? Beautiful. And we've got a Sunbeam Alpine. Does that look lovely? It's not a Tiger, I know that much. It's got the larger fins on the back. Now I can't remember if that was the Series 2 or Series 3 cars that got those fins, but they are epic, aren't they? I'll try and put that in the comments when I come to the edit. Oh, epic pair of fins, wow. So the Viva in HA format ran on for quite a while in the form of the Bedford HA van, but in car format they're pretty thin on the ground. Now this SL90 from 1966 has got the 1159cc engine, and apparently it's only on its third owner with, wait for it, 22,600 miles. And apparently there are only 6 left of this particular model, so I'm suspecting that's the SL90 in absolutely lovely order. It does look good with that red stripe over the old English white body. Lovely and pretty rare. So this takes me back. This is a blaze coloured Morris Marina from 73, L-plated car. I think coupes, earliest coupes were not far ahead of this one, maybe K. It's got those obviously marina door handles that we used on other cars. Let's just have a quick look inside for old time's sake here. I had one of these. It certainly wasn't anything like this condition. The first time I got it home and tried to jack it up, the jack went through the floor, but thankfully this one has survived. Oh, they all smell the same, don't they? Wow. There's quite a fair bit of room in them, to be fair. I'd forgotten what they were like inside. Well, there you go. One of the 70s best sellers from British Leyland. Lovely. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not sure of the year of this Austin 7. So they were branded, originally the Minis were branded Austin 7 and Morris Mini Minor, and eventually just shortened to Mini. But this looks like it's a facelifted car. It's got those sort of moustache extensions under the grille. It's in lovely order. Beautiful in this powder blue colour, isn't it? There's a lot to like about that little beauty, isn't there? So I was taking that one home. So a 1950s staple from the Morris catalogue is the Cowley, and I think these went on to be, maybe get this wrong, I went on to be sold under the Ambassador label, or certainly maybe a successor to this in India. And that's an epic looking car. Again, cars of the 50s, probably a bit of a challenge to drive in day-to-day traffic today, but great to see that one here. So the bank robber's choice back in the 60s, this is a 66 Mark II Jaguar, but it's the 3.8 litre, so far more desirable than the others. They've really got a turn of performance on these. I think the 3.8 went on to be used, or was used also in the Ital. So have a quick look inside. This one is unusually a manual. Now, you just simply don't get as many manuals. I've not seen too many of these as a manual. I'll probably be proved wrong now by somebody in the comments, but that looks epic inside, doesn't it? What a lovely place to be. Fantastic, isn't it? So this is perfect on a day like today. It's a Bedford CF, so I guess these are made at Luton. It's a CF 250, and this one's been made into a caravanette. Probably a conversion by somebody like Dormobile or somebody back in the day. Extremely useful vehicle, and Bedford's this one actually is an automatic I've just seen as well. Well, if you're going to come to a show and you want to take a rest and make a cup of tea on your travels, what better way to do it than a Bedford CF caravanette? That's lovely, isn't it? Now, my lack of commercial vehicle knowledge with this Bedford of the period will probably catch me out, so I'm going to have to put that in the edit, because I just for the life of me can't remember. But that flatbed looks pretty good, doesn't it? So quite a few Land Rovers here today. We've got a 1950 Series 1, car launched in 48 at the Amsterdam Motor Show, quite an early car. So this 1960 2.6 straight 6 Zephyr has arrived here pulling a caravan, so it's really earned its corn today, isn't it? Lovely features of the cars. I know it's a 60, but obviously some lovely features there, cars of the 50s. Whilst it's not got this sun visor at the front that many have, it's got these lovely side deflectors so you can have the window open at speed. It's got a rather natty looking blind at the back, and it's finished in this beautiful green over Old English white. Doesn't that look a treat? So this little beauty is a Stairpued Halfinger from 1963. It's a small, lightweight sort of four-wheel drive vehicle. I'm not sure whether these were built for the army or not. It doesn't weigh an awful lot. We'll just try and get a look inside it. It's not got an awful lot in terms of passenger protection in there. Pretty basic there, not an awful lot to go wrong, and a decent amount of carrying space in the back. Perfect. And as I say, it's quite a narrow track as well. So the Scammell Explorers were built in the early 50s, mainly for use by the British Army, but of course when we didn't go into World War III at that stage, they continued to remain in service and were used right the way through until the 1980s, unbelievably. They've got, because of their axle articulation and four-wheel drive, they've got a lot of other uses as recovery vehicles, heavy recovery vehicles in this case. I'm not sure whether you can really appreciate the size of it, but they're absolutely massive. You've got a huge climb up to the cab there, as you can see in that huge body. So as a recovery vehicle, I guess they'd be unmatched, wouldn't they? Incredibly incredible. And then we've got a Roots Group Singer Gazelle. This is one of the, I guess, the variation of the, what's the Audax, which was the generation of Minx upon which it was based, and others. But Singer was just one of the brands that Roots had back in the day. Now I might have to put a bit more information on screen about this absolutely beautiful Rolls-Royce. Is it a 2020? I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to bluff you and say I know more than I do, because I simply don't. But what I can appreciate is it's absolutely lovely inside. Look at the controls on the steering wheel for the ignition, advance and retard, and also the throttle opening and closure. Absolutely lovely place to be. Quite a fair bit of room in the back of that as well. And if that wasn't enough, there's a big old box and a spare wheel on the back. Wow, that's lovely, isn't it? So thanks again for joining me on Lot 76 Cars at the fabulous Stoke Row Steam Rally. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications so as not to miss my next video, and as always, once again, thanks for watching.